Hey there, and welcome to the Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast. Do you want to be a better speaker? Do you want to be more comfortable on stage? Well, listen, I have a new success interview for you.
You already know.
My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. GreatnessWithin.com. TJ Hoisington. GreatnessWithin.com.
For today's podcast, I've decided to bring on Tristan DeMontebello and Michael Gendler, and together they run a coaching service that helps people become better speakers, to become high-performing speakers. And I thought I would have them on the show. But before we jump into the interview, please do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, then I invite you to subscribe. It's pretty easy. And make sure that you click that notification button so that you're the first to be notified when we have a new video or training that comes up. Also, if you haven't gone to Apple iTunes to download or subscribe to my podcast, I invite you to go there. It's pretty simple. All you got to do is type in my name, TJ Hoisington, or you can type in the name of the show, which is Unleash Your Greatness Within. All right, enough said. Let's jump right into the interview. Tristan, Michael, welcome to the Unleash Your Greatness Within show.
Thank you, TJ.
Fantastic to be here.
We are stoked to be here.
I'm stoked to have you guys. It was awesome that your team reached out to me, and I thought, what a great subject that I think the audience could get a lot out of. So let's just jump right into it. Typically what we do when we start an interview, I want to get some of your backstory. And so if you could both take just a minute or two and just share a little bit of your background and how you guys came together and those kinds of things.
Sure. Well, this is Michael. People always get confused because we show up to our meetings together. I'll let Tristan share his story a little bit. For me, I never expected it to be this way, but I'm the guy who grew up with social anxiety, like a deep, deep shyness and insecurity. And the guy who 2 years into his career decided, I can't do this. I need to quit my job. And I remember drafting my letter of resignation to my manager saying, I'm not cut out for leadership at all. Mm. And it wasn't until my dad heard the news and said, no, you have to tackle your problem. You have to tackle your fear. You can't just run from it. That I stumbled my way into a public speaking class, a Toastmasters class. And somehow, just through sheer curiosity and dedication, I started going, week after week. I went for 100 weeks in a row. And through the skills that I slowly built up, I noticed everything changed for me. And just a few years later, I got promoted. I ended up meeting Tristan. I quit my job. I became a public speaking coach, which just blows my mind. And I even developed the confidence to start becoming a rapper and sharing some of my passions around freestyle rapping with the world. So for me, in a nutshell, I'm honestly driven to become the person that I wish I had growing up, someone that could inspire people who have low self-confidence and self-esteem, that they too can learn the skills to become more comfortable in their skin.
That's cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my inception story couldn't be more different. I was just your average guy, truly obsessed with learning. Mm-hmm. I was just picking up skill after skill, making it my almost number one focus to get as good as I could at one skill. And then as soon as it became super fun, I'd switch to another one and add another one to my tool belt. But public speaking was never something I was particularly good at, but I didn't have any panic attacks or more nervousness than, anyone. I'd blanked. I'd had complicated experiences in class presenting projects, sure. But yeah, I think like a lot of people going through high school and college. But through my journey of entrepreneurship, I one day decided I wanted to take on a very high intensity, very driven project of learning called Ultra Learning. And one of my friends suggested I take on public speaking because it was one of those meta skills. When you learn public speaking, it seeps into the rest of your life.
Right. Processionary effect, you bet.
Exactly. And as I was prepping for this project that was supposed to be a public project, pretty intense, I was getting antsy, came into a Toastmasters meeting to start actually speaking in front of an audience. And in that first Toastmasters meeting, I meet Michael. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing Michael speak a few times during the meeting and just being blown away. I couldn't believe how he was capable of answering questions on the spot with that level of mastery. It just felt as though he had days, weeks, months to prepare, and everything was just precise. And it was really, really inspiring to me. So I ran to him and said, hey, could you help me out with my project? And he started coaching me. And 2 weeks later, I discovered that there's such a thing as the World Championships of Public Speaking.
Yep.
This huge, 30,000 person competition in 140 countries that Toastmasters hosts every year. And the first competition is 2 weeks out, and I need 6 official speeches to qualify. So I reach out to Michael and say, hey, I know I'm a beginner. Is there any way this can be doable? Michael says, absolutely. Let's do it. And I just jump in. I remember that first contest, I gave my last qualifying speech at 12 p.m. And then 4 hours later, I was competing in the qualifying competition. And I win that first competition. And long story short, 7 months later, I'm on the final stage of the World Championship of Public Speaking. And my entire life has changed. During that journey, Michael and I started coaching, and I discovered this. Yeah, we can go into that, but it really changed me in a way that I was not expecting. And that's how we started working together and sharing this gift with the world.
So Tristan, did you just outshine Michael? I mean, Michael, what happened to you, man? You didn't get up on the final 10 or whatever it was. What happened there, man?
No, it's crazy because it was a dream of mine to compete in the World Championships. I've known about it for years, but I never did. And then I meet Tristan, and Tristan's like, I will try anything. I will work as hard as it takes to get up there. And I realized in front of me, I had this golden opportunity to give everything I've learned about public speaking to someone who not only will absorb it like a sponge, but will put it to the test. And some of the things that Tristan did to prepare for this competition, I don't think any human in any of the competitors did it. And that's what made this such a strong team, because Tristan was willing to do the work, and he was willing to do work that I don't think I would have had the courage to do.
Do you think, Michael, that the stage, public speaking or rapping or whatever, did that always come natural to you? And that's going to lead me to a question about you, Tristan. Was speaking natural to you, or is it totally a learned skill for you?
Someone once told me that your greatest fears end up being your greatest talents.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's true for everyone. The stage has been one of my greatest fears almost all of my life, TJ. Mm-hmm. And then slowly tackling that fear helped me discover this love for it. Uh-huh. There's nothing more fulfilling to me than being up on a stage and sharing an emotion with someone, relaying a feeling, humor. And I'm sure you've given thousands of speeches. When the audience and you have that connection, it's an unbelievable feeling. So it hasn't been true. I haven't conquered my fear of dancing. I haven't found my talent there yet.
I haven't found my talent of singing, so we're good. I haven't conquered that fear.
But for stage and for speaking,
for sure,
I have. And that's why I'm so driven to, I know there are people out there who have this fear and also who have this talent. And I'm so curious to help people find it.
That's really cool. Okay. How about you, Tristan? What?
I think I wanted it to be. I think deep down, I've always wanted speaking to be a strength, or wanted it to be natural. I really remember spending a big chunk of my teenage years in awe of anybody that could speak almost naturally. It felt like for them, it just came naturally. They could make anybody laugh on command. They could do whatever they wanted, and you'd put a spotlight on them and they'd be hilarious and to the point. And I think I compensated that with the other skills I was tackling. I remember I got pretty good at skiing, and I won this competition when I was doing my engineering degree, and I was interviewed. And I desperately tried to be funny, and none of my jokes landed. And I felt so awkward, and I just hated myself for weeks after that interview. But later I started a band a few years after my master's, and so I had to be on a stage. But there I was singing, and if I was singing, it was something that I didn't have to speak. But then I had my first concert, and I'm alone on stage, and I walk on stage, and I have to say something. And I remember walking on the stage, having this roaring applause, because it was 100 of my friends basically in this sold out room. And I remember the sides of my cheeks just quivering. They were stuck. I was just stuck in what probably looked like the scariest awkward smile. And I just couldn't say anything. And I just said, thank you. And then just started singing, because I had prepared everything impossible to speak. Right. Then little by little, as that went by, so I can't say it was natural, but I was definitely, as Michael was saying, I was always pulled towards that. And I remember after that concert, someone said, you belong there. It fits so well with your personality. But yeah, it definitely took a lot of work.
I remember, maybe you guys could share a mistake that you had for our audience, right? I remember when I was in high school, I had told a teacher that I'm going to one day be a motivational speaker. He was my he was my graphic arts teacher. His name was Charles Sams. Great guy. I was his TA for the graphic arts room. And what a cool guy he was. But I privately told him, hey, I want to be a speaker one day. I'd been listening to these tapes of Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and so forth. Now I've gotten to know those guys and so forth. But back then, right, they were some of the cream of the crop. Not all of them, but some of them. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling Mr. Sams, hey, I want to be a speaker. And the next week he came to me and he said, okay, I signed you up for some conference that the state was doing on speaking. And I said, no way, I'm not doing that. And he says, I thought you wanted to be a speaker. I said, but I'm scared. I don't know that I'm ready, is I think what I told him, right? Mm. And I had never spoken before. I just had this idea, right? This passionate idea. But he said, why don't you put your action where your mouth is? And he signed me up, and I went and spoke, and I ended up, interesting thing, he told me the wrong subject to speak on. He said, you could choose anything you want to speak on. So I chose to speak on goal setting. And let me tell you something. I went into with a series of judges, and I did my presentation, and I knew that I nailed it. You know, when you nail something, it is awesome, right? You feel it, you walk off the stage, it's real. And then we get done. Mr. Sam said, how do you think you did? And I said, I think I'm going to win this thing. I don't know. I hadn't seen any of the other speakers, but I felt like I was probably good enough to win. I don't know. That was just my idea in my mind. Well, about 2 hours later, he comes to me and he says, I've got bad news for you. He said, they want to award you first place, but you spoke on the wrong subject. We were supposed to speak on the free enterprise system, and somehow through the communication that didn't get, communicated properly to me. So I spoke on the completely wrong subject, but they ended up giving me third place. And so I thought, coming out of that, I thought, okay, I must have done a pretty good job to get third place, even though I spoke on a completely wrong subject. And so that was the beginning belief for me that I might have something there. And I don't know if you each found a place in your speaking where you felt like you've landed on it. Anything like that ever occur to you where you felt like this is it for me?
That's a tough question for me, because I'm trying to go back and trying to pinpoint one moment where I felt a shift, and it's really hard. The whole competition lasted 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And in the most intense moments of the competition, I was speaking sometimes twice a day to new audiences, improvising a new speech for both.
Oh, wow. Which, by the way, let me just say to the audience, improvising takes a little more skill, I would think. Like some people, especially Michael, if you're a rapper and you can do it, I don't know if you can just spit out rhymes. right? You probably can.
That's what he does. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, but for a lot of people, that's difficult. I would say improvising for me is harder than preparing a thought process methodically and then delivering that message, right? So, So anyway.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that absolutely terrorized me. Me. And worse, I had to go there and tell the audience or be announced as if this was a perfectly rehearsed.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You know, because otherwise I'm going to get terrible feedback. If I tell them, hey, I'm going to wing something right now, tell me how you feel, they're going to be like, first of all, why are you wasting my time? Second of all, you know, for someone who winged it, really good job. But that's not how it went. It would be, we are so lucky today to have Tristan de Montebello here. I can't believe the honor. Tristan de Montebello is competing in the World Championships. He's qualified for the semifinals, and he's here to showcase his World Championship speech, and he wants our feedback. What an honor. Please help me welcome Tristan de Montebello. And I'm the only one in the room who knows that I have like 3 bullet points and 2 jokes that I'm going to try to put in, and this one concept that I brainstormed in the morning with Michael. And I'm bringing this up because during the first half of the project, I didn't really have time to do that kind of work. I was iterating on this speech I'd written in the beginning and trying to make it better every time. Right. And I was speaking a lot, but it always felt like I was coming in with something very rehearsed. Mm-hmm. And even when I won the regionals, Michael was telling me, you're a great public speaker. You should believe this. Tell yourself you're a great public speaker. And I couldn't. We had so many conversations around this. I'm like, I was telling myself, this is crazy. Why don't I feel like a good public speaker? I've beaten a lot of fantastic speakers. Mm-hmm. I'm doing well. I'm learning storytelling. I'm learning all of these, but what's wrong? And then we went into the second phase. In the second phase, I had to start from scratch, and I had to write the best speech in the world. Right. And that's scary. But now I'm improvising. And I'm walking on these stages, and I have to trust that my brain's going to come up with something. And that's when I'm making lots and lots of mistakes. For sure. That's when I'm blanking, losing my train of thought, having to recover without showing it to the audience. And I can't pinpoint when, but somewhere in those 3 months, something shifted. And it's only when I realized, wow, I can walk up in front of a crowd and speak. Mm-hmm. Without preparation, without knowing every single word and every pause and breath and laugh and all that. And that's what changed it all for me. And
self-belief, right? Through that process, you developed a lot of self-belief about your ability to speak, right? Fair? Yeah.
Self-belief based on skill.
Yes.
Because Michael kept telling me, tell yourself you're a great public speaker. He tells himself that, right? If he's going to speak and it's scary, he goes over with the mantra, I'm a great public speaker. But it's based on his experiences, very positive experiences that he's had, his successes, right? What you're bringing up. And in my case, I didn't have it. So I'd say I'm a great public speaker, but I knew inside I was a fraud in those beginnings, because I was thinking, if you put me on the spot, I'm going to fail. But once I started getting successes doing that, once I learned the tools to speak on the spot, and now I realize, now if you ask me a question in a meeting, I'm going to be able to answer powerfully. I'm going to feel good. My brain's going to work. I know the tools. I know how to end strong. I know how to recover if I blank. I know how to organize a story on the spot. Once I had that and I'd experienced it, then I had the belief.
It confirmed it for you. Sure.
Yeah. And then I can say, now I'm a good public speaker.
All right, Michael, what are some thoughts going through your head here?
I love Tristan's comparison. We were talking about it a little earlier, comparing public speaking to martial arts.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because, one of my good friends has taken karate as a kid. Mm-hmm. And he went through all of the karate fundamentals, and they'd practice different drills, and they'd have, the ceremonies where you level up on the belts, right? Right. But he kept telling me, I don't really feel more confidence as a fighter. I don't really feel like karate has applied in any way to my life. And I think this is what Tristan's talking about, where public speaking is this art form, but for it to be a true self-defense, for you to walk around and feel like you're equipped as a public speaker, you can't just know the mechanics of written speeches and be able to deliver them well or memorize them well. Our belief in communication is, if you want to really master the art of self-defense, so that you're walking down the street and there's a guy that's looking kind of shady and you want to feel like you can protect yourself, in public speaking, that's the skill of speaking on the spot, of talking on your feet. Because for most of the people listening, I imagine, the nervousness, the anxiety comes in when you get called on in a meeting unexpectedly. When someone's around the table going, "Hey, TJ, could you just say a few words to welcome everybody here?"
Sure.
And I know for myself, when you're sitting in that circle and some organizer is saying, "Why doesn't everyone just introduce themselves and say one fun fact?" And I'm just sitting there at the end going, "Oh my God, what do I say?" The whole time. This is the everyday reality of most people. So I believe that being equipped with the tools to speak on the spot, that knowing that no matter what gets thrown at you, you're going to be okay. That's a type of peace and serenity that honestly for me feels like freedom.
Oh yeah, for sure. So so you guys have a coaching program, and what's the coaching program called?
It's the Ultra Speaking Method.
Oh, right. And it's ultraspeaking.com. Is that right? The website?
That's right.
Okay. So what are some of these skills? I'm curious. What are some of the skills that you guys provide those that seek your coaching? What are some skills that you actually provide them in terms of speaking on the spot and so forth?
I think the first thing that we notice in people, we'll ask them a question like, do you mind if we put you on the spot?
Sure.
TJ, there's been a ton of great inventions in the world, but what is the greatest invention ever created?
Probably the printing press.
Why?
Because it projects and provides people with knowledge. Back in the day when people didn't, I don't know if you want a history lesson, right? But
this is good, right? I can see you gaining momentum as you're starting to speak your second and third sentence.
For sure.
What we notice is that most people get put on the spot with this kind of absurd question. There's no one greatest invention.
Right.
But we notice certain clients start to break down before even saying anything because their mind is just overwhelmed with possibilities. And the longer they stay in their heads, the longer they feel like nothing is working.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the nerves come up, the anxiety. But the cool thing is, and I love that we heard it with you, as soon as you start speaking, as soon as you put an answer out there, and then you put a second sentence out there, and by the third sentence, you're like, wait, this is pretty good. I think the printing press changed everything. And now you're on your way to a very solid speech.
Oh, I see.
So one of the first things we notice in our clients and we teach the people that we work with, the longer you stay in your head searching for the best idea, the worse you're going to feel. The quicker you start speaking and putting out words, the faster your best idea is going to come. Because just like in writing, your best idea doesn't come on a blank sheet of paper. That inspiration, that genius comes after you write the first paragraph, maybe somewhere in the middle. And that's what we're trying to get to in speaking, is just letting our minds flow so that the inspiration can come from within.
Okay, so let's, I totally agree with you. When I write my books, for example, when I wrote Return to Robinson Island, which is a 400-page book, I didn't quite know what each chapter was going to be until I finished the previous chapter or the first chapter. And I hear what you're saying in that if you will open your mouth, the ideas and the thoughts and even the structure will formulate. It'll come. But what most people do is they get nervous and they shut down instead of get nervous and then use that as energy to thrive. And that's what you're coaching people to do.
Absolutely. And it gives us it's almost as if you lay bare where you're at, right? we ask you a question and we saw how you answered your question. And now we can say, okay, here are your strengths and here are your weaker parts. What if you took this and you started with this? What if you gave yourself a second more to start with how books spread knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start speaking about how you believe that this is the most important thing in the world. And this leads you to the printing press, right? And now you finish with the invention after you took everybody on a story, right?
Right.
So a lot of our work, we put you on the spot, obviously.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. One of the foundations of what we do is it's really helping people find enjoyment in the process. Mm-hmm. Because as you said, when you feel the nervousness, if you're someone who's used to it and who's expecting it, when you walk on a stage and you haven't spoken in a while, you're going to feel it, right? It comes up. In my case, my heart starts beating. I can feel it in my chest. Sure. My hands always get cold. And I have a few symptoms. Michael's symptoms are different. His fingers start shaking. I mean, TJ, you might have something different happen. Some people sweat. Some people feel heat. If you know that that's going to happen, and you know that nervousness is a wave, right. So it's a swell that just comes up, but then it passes. Mm-hmm. Then in that moment, instead of freezing, which will only make the swell grow, sure. When you start speaking, it releases it and lets it go. So a lot of our work is helping people experience that. And I would encourage anyone listening to this, if they tend to freeze or if they tend to be overwhelmed with the nervousness, to start speaking, get anything out, and then you'll be able to grab that thread. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I lost my train of thought 3 minutes ago. I had a full-on complete blank. I was trying to share this story of the wave of nervousness. I wanted to get to this, and I had nothing in my brain, absolutely nothing. And it would be really interesting if you're listening to this right now to go back right after Michael spoke. It happened probably 20 seconds after that. You'll notice that maybe I have an extra second of pause, but I started speaking again. And I picked up by saying the foundation of our coaching is, right. But I didn't know what was going to come next. I just knew I had to speak. Otherwise I was going to freeze, right? And that happens to anybody. But because I started speaking, this is a perfect example. I couldn't have wished it, even though it was a little bit scary. In that moment, speaking freed me. And finally I caught the thread, and okay, now I'm able to pull on that thread again. I know where I am. I have my footing, and I can speak on, and the wave is gone again.
Oh, good. That's good. You're totally being authentic there. So that's awesome. So one of the things that I find with myself, and I often teach people, is the power of taking a breath, right? Sometimes when you hit that brick wall, whatever that is, for everybody, it's a little bit different, right? I found that a common one is, hey, just get some oxygen in your belly. It'll calm the nerves, but you can't hold the oxygen in there, right? You actually have to now execute. Now, the struggle is that I could see with some people, correct me if you see it differently, is that you got to be careful about rambling. Like when I gave speaking competitions when I was a lot younger, right? Everything's got to be on point. You cannot spend too much time on that fishing trip or going to space, right? You got to get to a place where you're trying to end up. So any thoughts on that? Rambling.
Well, we had that yesterday evening. We were coaching a group masterclass with some execs who were really, really good. Mm-hmm. They were really good speakers. We were actually very, very impressed by them. But one of the women there had this problem. She'd tend to give a great answer, skip what the ending should be, and then continue speaking. And at the end, she didn't really know how to end and would trail off a little bit. And that would usually end with a little grimace or a little awkward laugh because she can tell that she's not ending powerfully. And so our belief in that is, we're completely aligned with you, is the way we see it is it's so much better to end early.
Oh yeah, totally.
If you end a little bit too early, and we asked, we had her go through a new speech, a new impromptu answer to a question, And when she ended early, we turned to the audience and we said, so what did you guys feel? And everybody was there. I want to know more. Give me more. This is now everybody's hooked. So instead of that feeling of when is this ending? Where am I right now? People want to hear more. So you're never taking any risks if you're ending early. But the only way to do that is to stick the landing.
Right.
We love seeing it as an analogy with gymnastics when they go through that fabulous routine. And even if they fumble at the end, they always end with their arms out, sticking the landing, proud smile, right? Looking at the judges, and then they walk off because that's the last impression. And they know that the last impression is the one you're going to be left with.
Correct.
100% with you on that.
In fact, George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, said that the first 5 minutes of a film or a movie and the last 5 minutes of a movie are the most important parts of the movie, right? Because you leave them with a beginning impression and then an ending impression. And that's what many people can hang on to. And I love the idea that you guys teach about ending a little bit early. If you're given, let's say, an hour to speak, maybe that's longer than most speeches are. I typically speak from an hour to 8 hours a day, right? I work in corporate America a lot, and usually we take people through our full day trainings and so forth. But okay, let's just say it's 20 minutes. You have an allotted time of 20 minutes. And let's say you can take it all the way up to the end of that 20 minutes, but let's say that you can get all the meat of your message out with power, with precision, with emotion, using the different dynamics there. And let's say you end up 5 minutes early, 3 minutes early. I would say don't force yourself to go to the end. End 5 minutes early and end with that stick, that gymnastic stick that you're talking about. And I'll tell you what, you will leave a little bit on the table where people will want more. And so it's really a cool dynamic. But what some people do is they'll speak for 21 minutes or 22 minutes. And you know what you do there? You've just lost rapport with your audience, especially if they knew the amount or the allotted time that you had to speak. If you take more than your share, it can hurt your process and your prospects. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
super in alignment there. My weakness when I get lose my temper is I'm sitting in the audience. I know I'm supposed to be out by 10:15. It is 10:17. I have no sign that the speaker is going to be done. And I feel like my time is being robbed from me. And Tristan has to lean over and be like, dude, breathe. This is unfair. I'm complaining to the head of the organization. This is uncool.
Yeah. So be respectful. So one of the things we can tell the audience, right? Be respectful of time. And a little bit less actually ends up being more.
Absolutely.
And it applies for a 1 minute answer too. If somebody asks you a question, it's the same exact thing. If you speak up in a meeting, it applies all the way from a 1 minute answer to a 4 hour speech or workshop. Absolutely.
That's really cool. All right. So I recently interviewed Jack Nasher, who's an expert on negotiation. And, one of the things that he taught is little things like this. Maybe you don't teach this or whatever, but he did point out to me, he said, when you're delivering good news, like if you have to give a presentation and you're delivering good news, whether it's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, he says there are things you can do with your body that can give you the edge. Like, for example, if you're going to deliver good news, he says, stand up and be strong about it and be forthcoming about it and share it. If you have to share bad news, he says, stay seated, minimize your impact, but then quickly switch to how you can benefit the outcome. Anyway, so there are things we can do with our body. Do you guys talk about presence of body and how to use your body when you go on stage or any first steps when you go on stage, anything like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have the fundamental belief that your body leads the mind. We'll put people into different energy states. We have this fun exercise where we get people speaking literally at the top of their lungs, shouting, moving their arms. And what's crazy is not only does the energy shift, but the content shifts too. And so if you're walking on a stage and your shoulders are down and you just spent the last 20 minutes slouched looking over your notes, that's the energy you're bringing. And we love the quote by Maya Angelou: people won't remember what you said, they'll remember how you made them feel.
So true.
So true.
Yeah.
Feelings are so contagious, and the body leads the mind. That's why there's that research on power posing, which is so, so important. That's why Tony Robbins jumps on a trampoline before getting on a stage. The energy that we bring with our body onto the stage, into a meeting, dictates the feelings that we bring into our speaking.
For sure.
Which dictates the feelings that your audience is going to feel. And at the end of the day, speaking is all about just a transfer of feelings anyway.
And I would just suggest to the audience, right, make sure that with the way you use your body, that you communicate internally, right? What do you say? All great athletes have phrases and things that get them to that edge or that peak performance state of mind, if you will. So as a speaker, you could do the same thing. For me, I go, here we go. Let's roll. Right? Let's knock their socks off. Here we go. And then even if I'm not feeling it at the moment it's my job, or I'm in a position to stand up and start speaking, I go there. I repeat these phrases. I'm there. I'm excited. And then boom. But I carry my body as if I'm confident, as if I'm excited to be here. And eventually those feelings, if I'm not feeling them initially, those feelings will come. And that will translate into your message.
Yeah. If your body's in a certain state, your mind is going to go there, is going to follow wherever your body is. And we use that a lot, especially with clients who we follow over time. We do day-long intensives, and then we'll work with them over time. And with these clients, we do two things. One is we use anchors.
Yep, anchors.
And so we actually use smells. We have these little inhalers called boom booms, and it starts the day of our intensive. As soon as you have a positive experience speaking, or you're actually enjoying yourself, or you thought an answer you gave was very powerful, you inhale it, and you close your eyes and you remember why you're inhaling it, what you're proud of, what you did there. And every time you do that, and then you carry that around, and if you have a meeting that goes well, you do it. If you have a conversation with a friend that goes well, where you recovered well, you do the same thing. So we're doing the same thing you're doing, right? Those two words you use, here we go, they're linked. Let's knock their socks off. They're linked to many experiences in the past that allow you to believe in those words, that allow you to believe that if you believe those words, if you embody them, it's going to go well. Right. And so it's the same idea. And that's what we do with our clients. And we've recently added to that guided visualizations.
Good.
So now we're helping people who are really struggling, especially in the early days. We build them, we walk them through visualizations. We have them change how they're feeling in their body before they speak, what they're telling themselves. We have them visualize themselves on stage, seeing the audience laughing, watching how natural they feel walking on the stage, and then we rewind all the way back. And little by little, they turn that.
We call that flicking up and flicking back. Yeah. So
flicking up and back.
Yeah, flicking up and flicking back in your imagination. The subconscious mind, you guys know this, I'm sure, but just for the audience sake, the subconscious mind cannot tell. Joyce Brothers taught this, the great psychologist, right? She's taught the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference from something that is vividly imagined and something that vividly imagined with emotion and something that really happened. The subconscious mind can't. The conscious mind can tell the difference. But what if you can, this is the power of visualization. What if you can fill the mind and dwell on you being a awesome speaker that connects with the audience, right? And those kinds of things. You spend time dwelling on that enough, you can't help but perform more effectively. It's powerful stuff. So I think that's really great that you guys are introducing the mindset side of it, because, right, you hear all athletes say like 90% of it is mindset, 10% is the activity, right? I don't know if that's totally true, because those guys and ladies put in a lot of work, but they all get the mindset side of it, right? You got to be on your game.
Yeah, you have to start with the mindset. And I know people out there, before their next presentation, 10 minutes before, their mind is in a pattern of imagining worst case scenario.
For sure.
They say things like, I hope I do well, what if I mess up? I hope I don't mess up. The possibility of incredible success never even crosses their mind. And that's crazy, right? Athletes stretch before a competition. They listen to music to pump themselves up. They really get themselves in that state. And if we start doing the same with our communication, especially when it counts, if we start treating it like a sport, like something you prep for to get your mind and your body right, you're going to feel a difference.
It's true. It's true. So interesting. So in my book, If You Think You Can, and in some of our training programs, I use your example right there in a sense, is that you have this thought. It's your job to speak. You can remember a time in grade school or middle school when you were asked to speak in school and you knew you had to prepare, and next Tuesday you would deliver your message. For some people, the moment they're told that they have to do a speech, a 5-minute speech on something, right? What do they say to themselves? They say, I'll probably forget my lines, or I'll probably say something stupid, or I'll probably be embarrassed, or whatever. Everybody's going to laugh at me. So they're imagining that. So they have this thought and all these images that are going on up here, and thoughts trigger emotions, which are caused by words, trigger images, which trigger emotion. So then you have this less than par emotion down here. And now it's time to give your performance. And because your state of mind is low and not effective, you do the performance less par, and then you end up getting a result. And the result, it can and often does reinforce the original thought. You get the result where you did forget maybe one of your lines, and what do you say to yourself? I knew I'd forget my lines. Yeah. And you don't realize if you take that circle all the way back, it started with that original thought. Any thoughts about that, guys?
Well, that's how speaking anxiety starts. We work with some clients who are really, really, they have panic attacks. One of our clients would
for sure
take Xanax in the morning if he knew there was any opportunity he'd be called on at work. Mm-hmm. And he's young. It was it's scary sometimes to see just how much it impacts us. But my sister's a neuropsychologist, and I talked to her about this, and she explained just that this loop is very similar to what you're explaining. They have a bad experience. They feel symptoms, right? So usually it always starts with the symptoms. My heart's pounding, my thoughts start racing, and I can feel I'm sweating. Mm-hmm. Then I have a bad experience. And maybe it's not the worst experience, but I have a bad experience. And I put that in the back of my mind, and I go on with my life. But then a month later, I have to give another presentation. And as soon as my heart starts beating, I think, oh no. And immediately all the emotions we'd hid, they surge back up. And now I'm so scared I enter into that negative cycle you just described. And so now it's going to turn into an even worse experience.
Right.
And if I don't do anything about it, the next time, all I need is one heartbeat, and I'm having a panic attack. That's when it gets to the extreme, right? So a lot of our work is, how do we stop that?
Right.
So we start at that. We take all the stakes away. And this is the centerpiece of our work. We bring it down to something really fun and easy when we're working with someone at this extreme. Very comfortable. It's the three of us basically standing this close, mm-hmm. maybe a foot away. And we just throw words at each other and we start speaking. Very easy. And then we build up from there. And then we help the confidence go up. And then we make it a little bit more challenging. And then suddenly, invariably, the person we're working with says, oh man, that was actually fun. Mm-hmm. And now they have their first positive reference point.
Right.
And now we start creating the virtuous cycle over that. And now we build up, and now we start adding stakes. We make it a little bit scarier, a little bit scarier, a little bit scarier. And we just keep pushing the edge and keep adding the positive reference cycles. And when you do that, you enter into the positive loop. And that's how you have a healthy relationship with public speaking.
That's right. And by the way, you can form an attitude without ever having an actual physical experience, right? You can imagine something so real that you believe. Like, there's people that have never water skied before, right? And if you ask them today, would you love to go water skiing? Would you like to go water skiing? And they would say, heck no. There's people out there that would say, heck no, I have no desire to do that. It looks painful, right? My friends did it. I saw them being dragged with the tow bar across the lake or whatever. They don't want to do it. They didn't even experience it, but they imagine it. And so that's good that you provide tools to help them overcome, because some of those fears are illusions, right? They feel real and they are real, but they're illusion based. So I assume through your processes, you help them embrace some of those feelings. You know, it was Mark Twain that that said, do the thing you fear and the thing you fear will dissipate over time, right? If someone is truly committed to being a better speaker, at some point they're going to have to embrace that when they step out of their normal comfort zone, they're going to feel anxiety, tension, feedback. Yeah. Those that succeed are able to embrace that and recognize this is temporary, this is an illusion, and I can do better than this, and they go do it, along with maybe some tools along the way that like you guys provide them, right, to help them. And the moment they do it and they have a win here and a win here, that can shape all those bad experiences in the past.
I mean, that the craziest thing, TJ, and we're still stunned by this. We as the coaches, even though we see it over and over and over, not as stunned as the actual people we're working with, but it doesn't take a lot of time to reverse this, right? You have this crazy fear of the anxiety, and you think I'm going to have to step into my anxiety, and I'm going to have to do this over and over and over. I don't want to go there. I don't want to have a horrible experience over months.
Right.
But it takes one day.
Agreed.
For us, we do a 1 day intensive, and the whole mindset is turned upside down.
That's awesome.
Then you have to go through the process to make it stick, really, but 1 day. And we, at our masterclass yesterday, one of our clients said, you know, she got up on stage and we said, so what do you want to work on today? Is there anything in particular? And she said, you know, we talked a month ago, and if you had told me a month ago that I would have walked up right now and just looked at you without panicking, I wouldn't have believed you. So I said, I already won. And it's crazy. We barely worked with her. We did a 2-hour session with her. I'm not taking the credit here. We helped her with a bridesmaid's wedding speech. Mm-hmm. And we helped her. We gave her a little bit of confidence around that. We helped her a little bit with the content. And so when she gave that speech, which she was absolutely and utterly terrified of, that's why she called us in the first place. She said, I got to stop this cycle. That switched something in her. Yeah. And then a few days ago, she was at a panel, and it went pretty well. So now she's here and she's already thinking to herself, I can't even believe I had a good time.
Yeah.
So now she's excited. Now she's okay, now give it to me. I want to get good at this.
Well, and I think there's truth in the fact that when a person embraces their fear, those things they fear, you do feel confidence. You do feel elated. There's something to say when you face your fear, whether you get help or not. Just the fact that you're willing to step into that fear place and do it anyway. Oh man, it's very freeing.
Absolutely. You want to become the type of person who surprises themselves, who acts in the face of fear. That's what courage is. It's not feeling fear, right?
Right. And as you do it, the fear will go away.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Tristan, the first time you spoke early on in this interview, and you did too, Michael. You talked about how early on you had some fears. Did you not, Michael?
Yeah, terrible anxiety.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but now today, you guys are totally confident in doing it. So it goes to show that no matter where you are at today, you can learn to be a better speaker. You can learn to be more confident in front of people.
You nailed it. If there's anything, you know, if Tristan and I die, and hopefully on the same day, and get buried like with 2 tombstones next to each other, so that we can have a longer engraving on it, we would say that, you know, what are we trying to share with the world? It's that public speaking, confidence, communication, it's learnable.
Yeah.
And it's learnable in the same way that any game or any skill is learnable.
It's a skill, you bet. And you can develop a skill. And for some people, getting up in front of people comes easier. And some of those people don't use it, right? Sometimes the easier it is to be good at something, the more difficult it is to be great. And then you look at many high achievers. When they've done research of the high achievers, they found when they interviewed the parents, there's some research to back this up that they found by Dr. Bloomberg years ago. He found when he studied 120 different top athletes, artists, actors, and so forth in all the 120 different fields. When they interviewed the parents of those top in the world, right? The parents, you want to know what they said? That it was the brother or the sister who had the natural gift, but they never used it. So my thought to the audience is, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. But you don't have to live there. You can choose. You say, well, it's not natural for me to get up in front of people. That's okay. Go, as you said, Michael, go learn the skill of it and you'll get it. You'll be fine. If it comes natural to you, just sharpen your skill then.
Yeah.
We've never encountered anyone who wasn't able to do that. Never.
That's awesome.
Anybody, even the person I was talking about who was having these panic attacks, he hasn't taken a Xanax, not even close. He's giving 2 or 3 speeches a week now. He loves it. Now he believes that speaking is going to become one of his greatest strengths.
That has become a Xanax.
Wow.
Right? The fun of speaking is enjoyable. I don't mean that lightly or disrespectfully, but I'm saying learning to overcome those anxieties is very empowering. And I think you guys are right. You said it in the beginning of the interview, is that it bleeds into other areas of our lives. It affects others. It's a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And the reason that public speaking, why this skill is so massive for us, the confidence that comes with it, the self-belief, it translates into entrepreneurship.
It does.
It translates into relationships. What are you willing to say? What are you willing to be that you weren't before? Confidence is really just trusting yourself and being okay with who you are. And man, like, to have that seep into all the most important areas of your life really changes the person that you become.
Totally. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement, and it does impact your life. And I would just say one other fun quote. The greatest nation in the world is the imagination. So use it as a speaker, right? Live there first, from the inside out. So I think this is great that you guys have this mission and this purpose, that you're going out and helping people around the United States and even the world. I don't know how far you guys have gone. I'm sure your future seems bright to me. So I just encourage listeners. So we're coming down to a close here. So where can they find you? What do you have that you can offer the listeners? Those kinds of things.
Thank you for asking. Ultraspeaking.com. That's where our central hub of information is. We put up a special page for you and your listeners, ultraspeaking.com/TJ.
Oh, awesome.
We hope we won't get interviewed by any other TJs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to have some conflicts. We just finished writing a guide we're really excited about. So everything that we've learned in the past couple of years around the mindsets for public speaking, we put that in a guide. You can download it there on ultraspeaking.com/TJ. And I really want to say that mindset is the 90%.
Yeah. Cool. Tristan, how about you? Any other thoughts?
Well, yeah, I just want to say a word to anybody who's listening and who's suffering from this, who's suffering from this horrible fear of being seen. Because I think the essence of the fear of public speaking is that being seen as who you are, or worse, being made a fool, being vulnerable on that stage. And yeah, if you're listening to this and you're part of the very, very large group of people who are holding on to this secret, this dark secret that I'm terrible at public speaking, who are taking decisions in their life that are preventing them from fulfilling their potential. And we meet people high up in big companies who call us and say, it's been 15 years that I've been going through horrible pain with this, and it's time I change this. And I wish how I wish I would have done this 15 years ago.
Totally.
I just want to tell anybody, you don't have to come to us. There are plenty of public speaking coaches out there. If you're on a low budget, you can go to Toastmasters and that's a phenomenal place to start. You can go to improv class. I really believe that improv class can trigger something really, really powerful. And if you want to make a huge change, then there's no better way to have one-on-one coaching and really bring it to the next level. But don't wait. That's the message I want to put out there.
Awesome. So let me remind the audience, ultraspeaking.com/TJ. You have a new guide that you guys have put together. I invite you all to go.
We all have a small video course.
It's a small video course as well.
We have both. We have the guide, and we also have a three-day video course that you can go through where we teach specific techniques that can help in a more interactive way.
Awesome. Let me say, guys, you guys both seem like great guys. Good job on meeting a need in the marketplace, and for many people who desire to be better speakers and feel more comfortable on stage, you have a great opportunity for people to grow and to learn. And so thank you for being on the Greatness Within, Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast.
Thank you so much for having us, TJ. This was really fun.
A real joy. Thank you, TJ.
You bet. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely.
All right. Podcast listeners, thanks for listening. You've taken time out of your schedule, and I really appreciate it. Now, do me a favor. If you like what you heard, star it. Thanks. Now go unleash your greatness within.
GreatnessWithin.com.